when you're writing, it becomes like a stream of consciousness. So you be surprised, how it just takes you to, like it's just a stream. After a while, it's just a stream of consciousness. When you're writing,
Okay, we're live. Thank you so much, Firehorse, for being on with me. Codebreaker Real Talk. I'm Veronica Bartolini. I'm excited about this show. Um, Public is gonna have to bear with the small screen. I try to get it bigger here, but do you want me to run the thing that you sent me, or do you want to talk about it a little bit, or?
Yeah, I'll talk. Like I'll start talking a little bit. Then whenever you feel like it, you could just yeah, show the slideshow. The pictures.
Let me get there. More. Oh my gosh, it took out my share thing on my, what? This is so crazy, Miguel. It took out the share on my they're messing with me. Anyway, go ahead and you're gonna do a show. We're gonna do a show today about the dragon and how it relates to, how it relates to Hitler and
Yeah.
Antarctica. So I'm gonna have you take over and then somehow I'll figure this out. I don't know why they took it out of my toolbar. Thank you.
Okay. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna let my roommate know that I'm on the air, so he doesn't blast the TV with some Mexican show. I'm being Colorado.
Oh yeah, you're Puerto Riqueño, que no? Okay, now I can share the screen. Share settings, share settings, share settings. What the heck? I just want to share the screen, bro. That's what I was doing right now. Okay, cool. All right.
Okay. I am back. Let's see. Veronica has started screen sharing. Okay, awesome. Okay, screen save.
Remember, I'm also on Rumble as Draco. 30 dragons are bad and shit like that. And I'm like, let me tell you, there's good and bad in everything. So don't be telling me that that the dragons are good. Some are good, some are bad. Okay. Are you there, Miguel? Let me play this. A ver qué onda.
Yeah, yes. Okay, so what you're seeing here, this is like a major revelation. I guess with history, everything is a Truman Show. But what you're seeing here is like Hitler wasn't, a Rothschild. This is like the real Hitler, or they were all actors. If you see like the yes, that's George Reith playing von Vonnegut.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hitler was played. He was black and he got whitewashed, and he was played by Charlie Chaplin, by Roy and Walt Disney, and two others that I can't recall at the moment. But mostly it was them. And then you will notice is like, why did the war happen? Because the Germans were exterminating the Jews, but then when you kind of see something weird that's wrong with this picture, because all the elitists, where it's like Goebbels, Hitler, all of them, they're Jewish. And you're like, wait a minute, if they're Jewish and they, this is the SS, that they want the perfect super soldier, blonde hair, blue eyed, are the superior races, then how come these elitists, there's not even one of them that has blonde hair or blue eye? In the elite, like Nazi regime. And I said, doesn't make any sense until I started to, dig to find out that, the original Hitler was black, and that Germany was really the last Tartarian empire of the Moors. They still had all their Tartarian architecture there. So that
Okay.
means,
Firehorse, what you're saying real quick is that Hitler was originally black. I know you said that many times before, and I'm like, okay, so he was black. All right. That I know of in Antarctica, there's the beings that are the reptilian, the white reptilian with the blue eyes, with the long tail. Okay. So they started manipulating. What they wanted was a superior race. You know what they mean by that, right? The black, the melanin dominant, all of us have melanin dominant. That is what they want. They're seeking that bloodline because we have all the abilities. Get it? Now, I believe that it's the O negative type with the melanin dominant race mostly, and of course the negative rhesus. The A, the negative AB is what they want too. So what you're telling me, and this is for the audience, is that Hitler was black, and then he modified himself because he wanted to worship the beings from under Antarctica, which is off planet really, Aldebaran, and then they made white.
No, he didn't make himself white. No, he was they were all black. Even Russia, you see old pictures of Russia where all the Russians were black. And then you see pictures when we were like in War II with the Japanese, and you look at all the Japanese general and they were black. So that means since 1492 with the invasion, which really was an alien invasion, uh, uh, um, from Pleiades star system and the reptilians, that they like invaded, I guess this realm, Earth. Um, it's like the apocalypse really happened, and we're just living in the aftermath of it all. Because if you look at old coins of the Anunnaki Wars or World Wars, novel and all that, you can see like these airships that are melting buildings all over the world. It happened in it was like a reset that happened when the alien invasion, happened. And as far as like the Nordics, they wanted to come into our realm, but because of the frequency, they weren't able to handle it. And the way to handle it was for Hitler, quote unquote, create a new race of superior people that had the same bloodline as they were, so they could just start to use them as avatar to come into this realm. But aside from those Nordics, the Jewish sect, which is Hollywood, they have a pact. I believe they're all immortals. Really, anybody that's in Hollywood that's Jewish and they're famous is because they are part of the fallen angels that you call the sheriff, the cherubim. And if you look, there's a quote in somewhere, I think it's Soki, where it's 1:5, where it says like the fallen angel has four faces, and four wings. But the four faces are them able to shapeshift into four different faces, which is hence Hollywood. When you see like Jim Carrey or even Chuck Norris that recently passed away recently. And you see all of them, all those were characters. Everybody in history, that in your history books, whether they were inventors, politicians, actors, villains, like you see there, are all actors. If you look at the movie Iron Man, with the Mandarin, the last number 3 was like, oh, the Mandarin, we gotta chase him. He's a terrorist. And you find out he was like, I'm just an actor. Ben Kingsley, played it. He was like, I'm just an actor. This is made up. As they were telling you what's been going on through history. Wag the dog, war. We're saying, okay, there's a war going on. It's like, is it just another Truman show? They're there for like other stuff, or aside from an excuse to just really sacrifice our soldiers and their soldiers for like whatever demon they're worshiping. But yeah, you can see all there is like they're all characters. Even the JFK assassination, all of them, like Jim Garrison, he was a character played by Orson Welles. Um, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, even Tesla was played by a few different people. Again, with the Kennedy assassination, uh, 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 um, Oswald became Jim Reed's, and Oswald's wife became Patsy Cline, and then she became American Idol. I forgot her name. She has a talk show now, but she becomes, so they're immortal. They're always immortals, and they were able to. I don't know if they're able to regress in youth because they drink, baby's blood. Or take baths like you see in the Disney movie when the old woman just comes out of the, a pool of blood. which in history there was a woman that did that, a queen that every movie that you look at, they're occultists. They're telling you stuff. They just drop clues in there, like you see with the recently now with the Venezuela character was this character here that he played, and he's played, I think Saddam Hussein was played by Robert De Niro, and now
That
Robert De Niro is playing the role of the president of Israel, Ben whatever I forgot his last name, but anyway, they're all placed, so it kind of makes you wonder, like, okay, if all these politicians, the worldly leaders, are just really played by actors, who's moving behind the scenes? And I believe it's like the falling angels. They have like people, races to just be divided, because united, of course, we could over conquer. And I
here,
find it sad when I see group shots of like Africans bickering with blacks, and blacks, I could understand that, because in the middle, you had the Europeans that brainwash the Africans, they go like, hey, come back to Africa. But we all know the Native Americans, the original ones, were the Moors, Muur, of America, our brothers and sisters. And the Tartarian Empire, we had to do a reset, so the influx of the invaders came in and took over our world. It was an alien invasion that happened, and then on the for them to, like, take over a country and have it bleached out, where the Chinese and Japanese, Filipino were all black, and then all of a sudden you see just uh, um changing the gene pool, to have them all white, and then paint a history where, so they could cover their tracks of what they did in the past, which was freaking invaded our planet, took us as prisoners of war, and all those that are poor and struggling, those are, we were rich and striving at one point, you know. There you see, there, yeah, the idols. That's Bruce Lee playing Michio Kaku, because he never died. He was part of the Lee family, one of the 13 bloodlines, and they supply you with heroes. They're heroes because everything is control opposition in this world. So when they did, imagine when 9/11 happened and we were so devastated with that building. Imagine 24 hours of just constantly bombing on all the city. And that's what happened in Berlin. When the US had a US camping, that they were just 24. And why were they doing that? Isn't that overkill? What were they really destroying? They were destroying the bells, the last of the buildings and technology that was the stronghold for the reptilian, sect of the unseen enemy, and all the bells, and plus the Nazi bell that they had, which was like a Vermama, Vernana, I don't that the Indian UFO that you call it, and there were the last of the advance of the empire that was destroyed. And what I found interesting also is that they were using spiritual magic. It wasn't just like physical war, but it was like a lot of magic being involved. And one of the things that Germany had, believe it or not, it was like a autistic kids that are there, and then they had a program. I think it was England. What's his name? Aleister Crowley, who was playing the part of Truman. Oh, no, of like, not Truman, Churchill. And they did a program. It was like, hey, these poor kids with Down syndrome, let's do a program that come visit the world, and like, doing that. And the Germans were kind of perplexed. Okay, that's humanitarian, but for why? Because they are like the strongest talisman you can ever have. It's like a child with Down syndrome, because they're uncorruptible. They're like children, they're like living in happiness in another world that we could, my heart would be broken, all that stuff. But their frequency, they're like in a paradise, and because they're incorruptible, they're like the greatest talismans that one could possess. So they were trying to get as much of the children with Down syndrome out of Germany, but of course it at the end, all wars are kind of like orchestrated, and it's all like sacrifices, but then it's also a subtle alien invasion, so nobody can see what's been going on. It was until the 1900s that they started to invent the newspaper, so they could start printing, propaganda, and to like really brainwash the people, and to start rewriting history. And yeah, so it's an alien war that's been going on, and it's covered up by civil war, this and that. But you can see old coins of like UFOs, like beaming down, like melting technology to just eradicate, the paradise that was once here on Earth.
I wanted to show this, but it's taken a while on the laptop, so I'll just read it. It says the living creatures, living beings, or shayot, like you were saying earlier. And this is in the Bible, of course, the Revelations, because they have to tell you, they have to tell you what's the truth and all that. Hebrew is Romanized. Hayot are a class of heavenly beings in Judaism. They are described in the prophet Ezekiel's vision of the heavenly chariot in the 1st and 10th chapters of Book of Ezekiel. References to the sacred creatures recur in text. The Second Temple of Judaism in Rabbinical Merkab, which is chariot. So the Merkaba, when people say, "Ooh, the Merkaba, ooh, we can time travel through that." Well, yeah, because it's a chariot, really, but you could make it into whatever it is that you need to time travel with, right? But it says Merkaba here, chariot literature, in the Book of Revelations, in the Christian New Testament, and in the Zohar. It's also in there. According to Jewish and Christian tradition, there are 4 living creatures. Although their description varies by source, the symbolic deception of 4 living creatures in religious art, especially Christian art, called tetramorph. So, I find it interesting because there was 2 years ago, somebody posted something on Facebook on the pictures of, like, they have these eyes. There has like a bunch of eyes, and then like some wings, and then there's a picture of these Fomorians. Fomorians are beings that are created that are like half human and half whatever, something else. The lion, you got the lion, the eagle, right?
The
Eagle.
griffin, yeah, the griffin, yeah.
Eagle is in the money, you know what I'm saying? That took me, they say, "Oh, these are the angels that you call angels," and I'm like, "Whoa." And it's just, I wanted to go up to the 7th heaven and see, well, what do they look like? And I did run into a it was a dream of the 7th heaven. I don't know if you can relate, but it was in an auditorium full of people, and there was a screen, but it was actually like a little house, and it was a screen at the same time in the middle of the altar. And there was an older lady there with blonde hair, right? And she was saying that we came from the egg, and then she drank the egg, and then she drank milk. Okay, egg and milk. And it was just a very strange dream. There was 7 gold arched doors, and they were locked up. And I said, "You know what?" I told the attendee, "I don't want to be here. I need to go home." So finally there were 7 doors that opened, and then I had to go through a cave, because this is in a cave. And then I was getting stuck under, because the cave is so big, but then it becomes smaller, smaller, smaller. They don't want the beings to escape. Somehow I escaped that part of the dream. On the other side, I ended up looking this way to my right, and there was a bird being. a very tall guy. He was like not dark, but he was like not too white. He was like medium color. He had black hair and he was wearing an orange kind of like those yogi things that they wear, like an orange thing on him. And then he had plants on his arms and he had a beak. And that is the one that's in charge of the seventh heaven that I saw in my dream. And I just, it's interesting how these beings with the four faces are the ones that are protecting God's throne. God meaning the God in the Bible, you know, not the God that we come from, but you know what I'm saying? Like the one that they worship. I find it very interesting. Have you ever heard of that? Like the seventh heaven or the like the bird beings that are in charge of some of the heavenly realms? Have you ever seen
Well,
that?
you see it like with the Sumerian on the walls with the pine cone, those beans that you're talking about, and yeah, that I have those pictures of it showing you. So anyway, the tree of life where you see Asgard, the Middle Earth, and all that. So that the different worlds. The Kabbalah has it. In the old maps, you can see it. How the rings and out of the rings. With the domes. Those are the worlds. When you think like, oh, planets is on this realm, but it's just outside of our dome.
Right.
You know,
Okay, so we know that the alien invasion, you said it was, you think that it's before, when did you think it's before they started printing the newspapers? And do you think that the fake alien invasion really happened in 1700 or before that?
like 1492. Like
Yeah,
Star Wars is really the story, really of when they say like in a galaxy far, far away, aren't we considered in the center of the Earth? Or should I see
yes.
with all the other worlds, our world or our realm is right in the center of, you can see it on the map. So we are in the center of the world of the world. Um, but yeah, it definitely happened. Um, since 1490, since the invasion, since the end of the golden age, because everything again in ebbs and flow in time, and because we fell in frequency that wasn't in the high frequency of of bliss, of just harmonic harmony, with the golden age. Once we went down to a lower frequency, obviously other lower frequency entities are going to be there, and then that's when that's when we got invaded. And another thing I found interesting about the Titanic was when they said, like, because in real life, if a boat is sinking, the very first to go are not going to be the women and children, are going to be the rich millionaires on that boat. you know so when I heard about, like, what is it, Guggenheim, uh, Jacob Astor, Strauss, and all these guys that supposedly were against, the centralizing of banks. There was the last ones. It was I found out obviously that they were not white. So then, because I'm like, wait a minute, then they will want that anyway, because these are like rich, Jewish, people. Then I realized that they said that there was only one guy in that boat that was black. I was like, no, they were there. The original people that were there were all black, like the Strasbourg, Guggenheim, and Astor, because again, when they took over, even all, like, the metropolis of all the cities, were obviously was non-European. So when they're gonna invade, they just took over, everything, from the lands to the political system, education system, everything. They just took over. But we're waking up. We already know. Everything is changing. So their 6,000 years of rulership is over. You know, they're saying that Trump is going to be the last president because now whether they know it or not, we're going to be like in a new world order. And the Bible, when they say like, oh, there was really nothing that talks about a second coming. Isn't there's no second coming? It just everything that they're talking about is not about the past, it's about the future. You know, when they say that the Messiah is going to come and people are going to be like, oh, miracles, this and that, obviously is Lucifer, it's not Jesus. It's going to be, but because the out of all the religions, the one that's really brainwashed the most is Christianity. And and so when that happens, because that's the end game for the Luciferian, is to for Lucifer to come in and goes like, yeah, I'm creating miracles here and there, people that are going to touch are going to be healed and all that stuff. And that's I guess their last card, and of course a lot of Christians are going to be like, oh. And then when we're finally going to come to Judgment Day, where we're going to be vibrating to that, because every time that we try to vibrate to like a fifth dimensioner, they have to draw in trauma, like worldwide trauma, so we go all on a collective consciousness, be in that state of anguish and sadness and worry that we cannot flow up. The vibrations, the frequency has to match up. So when you're like ascending, like, oh, throwing some shit that the worldwide we is gonna be like, oh, tucked in the head. But that's when the phoenix, the phenomenon that's gonna happen, where Judgment Day, where we're going to be vibrating to the fifth dimension. That's when they're going to time it perfectly. It's like, hey, look, Jesus returned. Hey, look what's happened. Oh, he's going to be crucified. And to have everybody thinking like, oh, this is going to be ended to be that's their end game. But I'm hoping that people will be awake and at least know, because they say it in the text anyway, that a man's going to come with miracles, and they think he's the second coming, which again, no second coming is going to be a first coming, and that's going to be that event that they're going to try to sync it with, like our time to go into the fifth dimension.
Yes, I know. I totally get you. In March of 2019, I saw that vision that they were going to put a picture of Jesus. And of course, they have the option of putting Archangel Michael and Virgin Mary, but they're going to put the hologram of Jesus. And of course, like you said, it's going to be Lucifer. And a lot of people are going to think that, he's coming in his chariot, which is really a ship. And a lot of Christians, unfortunately, are going to fall, and even some Catholic, even just general in general, people last minute they're going to fall into fear and say, oh, I'm going to go to heaven, and they're actually going to be taken to be sacrificed. And that's I always talk about that movie Deuce, Dues, where they're taken to another planet on the idea that they're going to heaven with Jesus in a chariot, but they're actually being taken to a planet where all these other beings are ready to feed on them.
Yeah, I think I told you about this, how the reptilians were eating the Palladians, and the Palladians said like, wait a minute, don't eat us. What if we get you another food sources just as tasty as us? And then that's when they said that they created the anthrothol.
That's when they created the Neanderthal, right? And then the giants then were also some of the giants, the red-headed green eyes, they were back in the day with, I talk about this too a lot. The Native Americans actually had the red-headed giants as workers, but then they started eating the people, they started eating the other slaves. And so then the Native American were killing off the giants, and there's a thing, it starts with a G. Guttiers or Giddiers. Remember there's like a book even where this little kid ties up this giant, and then there's all these people around this giant and they tied him up.
Gulliver's
That
Travel, I think. Gulliver's Travel.
Gulliver's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's well, yeah, there still exists on again the other side of the wall. Even like in the 1920s, you see all these pictures of these tall people and all that, and then next to normal people, and somehow they just got worked, you know, erased from history. I don't know if you
Right.
can see. I've been trying to like I don't know if people notice this, but I've been staring like at the thing because I'm trying to like see if I could
Oh
show
yeah,
you my eyes shapeshift,
yeah.
but
I see it. One of them gets smaller, the other one gets bigger. I love it. Yeah, I see it.
yeah,
So I love it. What do you think?
is well, I never done this before. It always happens by accident. I freaked out my wife, which we definitely have to bring her to the show so she can talk about like the interesting
I see it. It happens,
encounters.
and some of my family can do it too. Let me see. Let's do it together, but the light is not too. Let's do it together. What do I look like? I can't, I'm not, I'm just staring at the camera.
Well, I'm sure the audience could probably type it in and tell us like, all right, this is what I see. That's what I see. Yeah.
I'm
I
gonna go get my phone so I can see if anybody's saying anything. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Okay. I look like I have cat's eyes from here. I'm freaking blind, but we all have dragon DNA. That's why dragon is like magical. And hopefully when they return, we could definitely be able to telecommunicate with them, which is that's something that the powers that be do not fucking want. They don't want that. Our dragon power. But anyway, I would try to relax my eyes and look like at a person's aura or just really invoke the dragon. But yeah, I had gotten out of a lot of fights when all I have to do is just stare them at the eye, and then the whole face would just morph, and they're like, "What the fuck? That's a demon." But no, it's just, I don't know. It's just something I discovered, my guardian angel again is a dragon. I always have this, infinite love with dragons, this connection with dragons, and then I realized like, okay, I was a dragon in a past life, and then my dragon mom from that past life, I guess she just stuck with me through the years of whatever incarnation, of beings that I became. And yeah, she got, stuck with me throughout all my journey.
Um, okay, here we have Akosi Bibang. Hello, how are you doing, guys? Is in the seventh dimension when you say seventh heaven? Could be. And then here is, I think it's a seven. Yeah, it could be. Jerry Lahane, how are you? Hi, like and just yeah, Gulliver's Travels, he says. My fave. I'm rewinding. I got this show noticed on my YouTube. Bell Talk. That's awesome. Okay. So yeah, I know as far as our eyes, I know mine shapeshift. I know that I was I'm 87% human, 10% Nordic, and I'm 3% Alpha Draco. So when I think that's why they use me, especially with the Sheila She-Hulk, because the dragon eyes come out, the power, the just the to me, I'm still, I'm here because I'm talking about I just want them to just stop taking the humans, stop trafficking the humans, the children. That's my stand. It's a war. That's what the war that we've been preparing for all this time. And unfortunately, like you said, a lot are gonna go with the others, which I'm pretty sure it's some of the faction that's from Antarctica. Then the thing of it is the all the Alpha Drakes and then the Aldebaran and all the Nordics, everything got convoluted. So it's not like we can say, oh, all aliens were good or all reptilians are bad. You know what I'm saying? We got caught in the middle. They experimented with us. I know you and myself and a lot of us that are super soldiers, not all of them, but most of them. There's a separate group and it's the Umbra Collective, UMBRA. Okay, so I'm writing about it, and what they did is they have these programs for the ones that we were born out of the United States, and either some of them were used, even the parents or the children were used like in the tomato, the lettuce farming, the cotton farming. There was a lot of trafficking there. So they would keep, I know my dad, he worked in the tomateria and with tomatoes in the warehouse and things like that. And he had a room there with the manager, and there were some nights where he wouldn't come home. So I was told that he was being experimented on, and he ran across something to do. My dad discovered classified information from the SSB. I'm writing about it.
Mm.
And what it is this whole program here on Earth. So they took them out, right? And then they would use me and people like you, you know, the gate program, ESO for me, they would take me out of class, they would take us out of class because, you know, they were experimenting on us, they were bioengineering us as well, and they wanted to see what kind of traits, whatever kind of abilities we had, then they would augment them, right? So then they could use us for their war. What is really going on, it's called the Replicant Project. So they're trying to replicate us. They're trying to use, you know, they've been trying to use our abilities. And the thing of it is we can morph, like you just talked about your eyes and things like that. And, you know, change your aura. Like go into whatever kind of, we're shaman too. We can shapeshift into anything. So they've been experimenting on people like us. And I really want that to stop. So the Replicant Project, I believe, is because they're getting ready for this thing that they don't want us to go through, right? They want to take as many people because they don't want to go back to source, right? And be responsible for the experiments and taking the children. I do see your dragon eyes. I see your dragon self. It's pretty badass. It's very powerful. I appreciate you being my brother too.
Yeah, well, it's a synchronicity. It's a dragon family, you know. And shout out to Harleen.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll have her talk to. She's watching too, I'm sure. Um, yeah, have her talk about the Manananga and the Bigfoot of the Philippines and also the Centrum, and not just talk about them. It's an experience that she had with all three of them. You know, with those three legendary creatures stories. So yeah. So then I'm sure she a lot of other interesting stuff she could talk about too. But those would be kind of interesting for you to hear. So I rather it's her story, so let her tell it.
okay. So Firehorse, real quick, because we still have some time. I there's the reason why they took out our videos, huh? Took down our videos, yours, mine, that guy. Because what happens, guys, is that there's certain people that'll infiltrate us. Like they become like they want to become handlers and they want to know what we know, and then they say that it's their story when it's ours. So they took down a bunch of your videos, a bunch of mine, but I remember, I wanted to ask you, how did you get to the United States? Your upbringing with your parents again? Um, I know we did talk about Lee the last time, Bruce Lee, and the time before that, but I want to know a little bit more about you. Like how did you come across here to the United States? I was born in Mexico, and then a year after I was in Nogales, Arizona, through the tomato factory thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I was born in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in New York City.
You're Puerto Riqueño?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And your family, they live here?
yes. Yeah, so was a lot of like back in the yeah in the 40s and 50s a lot of them would well they were being shipped to work in the factories here in New York City, for economical reasons, since the U.S. destroyed the economy over there in Puerto Rico, and after the war and all that stuff. So, saying sugarcane is no good for you, one of our imports and all that stuff, so, this bullshit agenda. So, yeah. And then a lot of, our black brothers and sisters, they got tired of the factory work and they're like, oh, fuck you, I don't do that. So then they were like, hey, we need new slaves. So then came in the Puerto Ricans, you know. Well, they get paid slaves, should I say. And then after that, yeah, then the next wave, Dominicans, and then the last, just you just go down the line, with like who's the next people that we want to exploit, sad but true. But yeah, so then yeah, they came here into New York City. Um, it was kind of in. Well, I was always in my own head, my own world, always like in school, going like, "Oh, freaking, why did I come into this world? I don't want to be here." You know, and yeah, I didn't like school. Introverted, but just really in my own world, trying to figure everything out. Since I would just wonder like, why can't they read thoughts the way I can? Start to realize like I thought everybody had this gift. Oh, I thought everybody had this gift. Um, and really, the mother dragon just talking to me since I was small. So that's what really anchored me to just in life to just like keep going because there's something that whatever it is, I'm still trying to figure that out.
What did
Uh,
she tell you? What would she tell you, and how did you see her in your dreams or in your
no,
mind right here?
no. Physically,
Really? Tell me.
like the lighting fixture morphed. But then I don't. As a child, you don't remember the details. But all like as a child, I remember it was like, oh, it's an alien. It was an alien. It's like all I know is I know it wasn't human. Say maybe it was an alien. It's like, what does an alien want me to be? Like popular or like famous is so they could hear me just give out information through entertainment, making films and all that, which I'm gonna freaking do, of course. um but now with Hollywood doing that independently anyway. So that's been my whole quest until I said like I gotta take an ayahuasca trip because I want to find out who was that I was talking to. um And then Azizio came into the picture during my ayahuasca experience. I said, like, okay, so that wasn't an alien. That was the freaking demon Azizio. I said, okay, that's what I thought. But it was until like years later when I was in the Philippines where I had Jezebel, who's a really great oracle. She's great tarot card reader. And a shout out to Jezebel as well. um and she picked up, when she was doing the reading. She was there actually when we were doing a reading, and then she looked at my eyes and then she freaked out and she was going like, Colleen, did you see this guy a reptilian? She was like, no, his eyes are different from a reptile's eyes. And then it was weird. I think it's because of the dragon family that we kind of show each other that, because that's kind of weird. She was also another dragon family. And then she told me that during my ayahuasca experience, that's when the demon Azizia wanted to like kind of take over my body, because I was like powerful, but it's not really me that was powerful. It's my mother dragon that lives within me that makes me powerful. Not me per se, but it's I guess the lineage, the family, which is my mother dragon. So So anyway, she finally told me. I said, "Wait a minute." She was like, "Yeah, that dragon that you were talking to, that was the dragon that you were talking." I said, "Okay, now that makes a lot more sense. It wasn't no alien. It wasn't Zizio, although the demon wanted me to think that it was him, so I could go like, hey, because all my life I've been like just wanting to, because it's like a splinter in your mind. When something as a kid happens and you like grow up, you can't just, okay, whatever. You gotta still go like, what the fuck was that about? I need to find that out. Especially when you're spiritual and you want, find answers and stuff like that. So, so yeah, that was pretty much it. Comic books and just esoteric book, and by myself, the lone wolf that just wants to, just to kind of something for humanity before I leave. Something that I don't know why, but that's always been my thing. Is like, oh, I need to help as many people as I can before I leave this planet. So.
Yeah. Are you gonna write your books, or you have some of your playwrights, right? What do you want to do? You want to write books or just the
No,
whole?
well, I'm just gonna write the one book of the experience of that I had, and then self discovery, and kind of like, okay, this is the bullshit that they've been feeding us since the day we're born, but this is the thing with the falling angels, they're immortals, and all our heroes are really freaking falling angels that you want to be worshipped, and just at the end also enlightenment, teach them how to escape the matrix, and because a lot of people, they said, okay, we live in a fucked up world, and we could say like this is just only temporary, this is just a game here, and this, you in a video game, and in this reality at the moment, so make the best of it, and you know try to better yourself as much as you can before you leave, and then just crack the code, to break out of the matrix, and become an immortal, become a god. you
How would you? I've already talked about how I'm doing it, but how are you doing it? How
I figured
how do
it
you get
out.
out?
Really, it's a lot of it has to do with like cultivation of the life force, and the life force is the chi, and the chi is the piranha. The piranha is the key. The key is the orgasm. So is to retrain that. Imagine if you like, you refrain from, you can still practice, we can still engage in sex, but no, you don't necessarily have to reach an orgasm, to just have that build up, because that's like the universal life force that would just stay in, stay in, stay in, and then that's why you think pornography is free, so keep people in devices, this and that, because the more you retrain it, the more it goes up your chakra until it hits the third eye, and that's it. You're like enlightenment. That's why they say like, go inside a deep dark cage and you reach enlightenment. I was like, fucking, I got bit by a rat or something. But what they mean is to just like, just everything, all thoughts are out, and then you just there, and it just goes up. The Cristo, the Cristo is the oil that you secrete within you. You're your own Cristo, and that's where you find your own Cristo. Is going up Jacob's ladder. Your back, and then you just reach it, and that's the way you be able to reach. Cultivation. Anything that doesn't take away your life, like drinking. You know, I guess sex. Drugs. Anything that you can that is just you just keeping that life force for yourself. That energy for yourself.
And also, not being on the phone, because I see that a lot of people live in their phone in their little box, and I turn off mine sometimes because I don't, especially when
That's
I'm
that that's your final step of the MK Ultra is your phone. That's the mind control right there. Is your cell. That's the last piece of MK Ultra is cell phone.
right. And I do have another phone that's not a cell phone, and I just, I use that if I need to. And this, the phone is pretty much ruling the people's minds, Like yesterday, I had to go to a doctor appointment because I'm getting ready to do, surgery or whatever for good. Um, and I saw this lady, she was like maybe in her early 30s and the guy too, and she was pregnant. They both had their masks on, and I'm like, fuck. And she was on TikTok just all this time that I was there, and I didn't take my phone. I was just staring, just breathing, just being happy, trying to concentrate. I'm waiting, and then the girl was on her phone and showing her husband, mira esto, mira lo otro, look at this and look at that. And I'm like, is that all you're gonna do is just be on your phone? It's so boring. What about life? What about life? But that's their major agenda is for people to be stuck in their phones. And then of course later on they want people to have a robot like the servicio, like a slave in your home, but you already have that. So it's just pretty sad to see. You can't even talk to someone without being on their phone. Are you on your phone or what do? Do you just turn it off or?
The only time I'm on my phone really is to just like learn about esoteric stuff, and that's about it. But going through Manhattan and seeing every white girl stop by taking a picture of their matcha latte, it's like I'm going, what the fuck? It's like all the time. I was like, what the fuck? I don't get that.
Yeah, and it's there when we go on Facebook, that's Jeremy, he told me he posted something, meta, that means death. And it's what it is the AI chooses who your friends are. No matter if you have 1,000 friends, there's only like maybe seven that show up every day, because it's the AI. And it's the AI that pairs people up to do this. And I think it's pretty sad. And you're feeding them. When I say feeding the machine, whether you put stories or whatever, it's just feeding the same people. I figure, what the hell, and then this whole thing when the whole pandemic happened where, oh, you got to boycott YouTube. You got to go to Telegram and Truth Social and Rumble. Well, I did that, but what? I only have one view on Rumble and I put all of my videos on Rumble. YouTube is it. I feel that was kind of like a propaganda to split the people too. You know.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people lost their accounts during COVID. I said, I wonder why.
Mhm. They took down 10 of my videos and I finally got 3 back because I said, what's wrong with me talking about health? I already said I'm not a doctor. This is for, you know, um, entertainment purposes only. No, no matter how many times you write that thing down on there. But anyway, did you want to go through what the projects were that I was using? So possibly you can maybe look into that. Like, hmm. Or did you want to talk about anything else? We have a few minutes.
Um, well,
It's it's
the
it's
falling
about
angels already, talked about. It's just you could check out like on TikTok, like anyone that they'll show you the different characters that you supposedly died, and all your heroes that you think are dead are alive playing other characters. I found it interesting because I like Linda Ronstadt. She has a lot of cool songs, but Linda Ronstadt is Selena Gomez. And I said, like, yeah, they look alike, but it's like, how do they regress? And I think it's shape shifting.
yeah.
It is like shape shifting because if we're shape shifting ourselves now, it's just our eyes that we're doing it. Imagine the falling angels, so they could do.
I noticed there's a silly thing with I've always loved Brooke Shields. I grew up watching her. I wanted to be her, Brooke Shields in the Blue Lagoon, right? She gets lost in the in anyway. She just recently came out with this series called Lipstick Jungle on Peacock. And I find it interesting. I something said, is she a man? I looked it up. Is she transgender? well, they say no, but she's all into the LGBTQ and all that stuff. And I'm like, I've always wondered if she's a man. She's really tall, muscular. Um, then there's a guy that comes out as the millionaire. Well, that guy, I forget his name as an actor, he is being groomed in that movie just like to look and act like Tom Cruise. I'm not kidding. If you look at it's called Lipstick Jungle.
Okay, that's an interesting title. Anyone
Yeah.
that's famous in Hollywood, they're all transgenders. No matter what. Leonardo DiCaprio, Mike Tyson, Andre the Giant. You'd be surprised. They're all because it's yeah, it's their realm, so they have to represent Baphomet. And again, that's why I say it's rigged. People that goes like, oh, I want to pursue acting so I could work alongside Robert De Niro. You're kind of better off either making your own film or putting all your years
Oh, you
into
froze.
a
I know
profession.
that pop is
Ground control to Major Tom. Did we lose you? Are you there? Okay,
okay.
there she is. Okay.
There you are. Yeah, we both froze. Did you hear the part where I said that hip hop is owned by Jay-Z and what's his wife's name? The ones that sing 7-Eleven.
Oh,
That
Beyonce.
Beyonce, it's all the gay agenda there with hip hop.
Yeah, because
And
they're all transgender, all of them. Of course, they're all transgender, all of them.
even the tennis player, Serena Williams.
Well, yeah, that was Millie Vanilli. That was the Serene sister. That was Millie Vanilli back when they were more skinnier. You know.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know that what I see is that they really want 12-year-old boys. Like, what I'm saying is they want the female to look skinny like that as fuck and no boobs, you know what I'm saying? Barely boobs. And no curves. You can always tell that there's no curves. You and I had done a show before where you showed like there's no curves. Then the Adam's apple when they go into it just seems like they're fascinated with the stupid pedophilia with the 12-year-old boy looking thing, and that's why they wanted their model so skinny, and now they have the Ozempic face, right? That we're looking like freaking that guy from he's looking for his ring. What's his name? In Lord of the Rings, what's his name? He's all
Oh,
ugly.
okay. Got Gollum.
Yeah, that with big old eyes, and he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, they do both sexes, so like that it's easier for them to become other characters, whether male or female, and they do it, it's like when they say, this satanic family that wants to make sure your kids make it in Hollywood at birth, they would just go in there and switch to sex, or maybe later on in life they would just go do it because that's a representing of Baphomet, the two sexes. And
yeah,
probably also the falling angels, maybe after the falling angels, I'm sure they have both sexes too. So it definitely comes from something, not just that deity. So I'm sure that a lot of the falling angels are androgynous. I don't know how to pronounce that,
yeah,
but
yeah. There's this movie that I watched. It's a series called Scarpetta that I mentioned last 2 weeks ago with Nicole Kidman. Well, she is young, so young. And Jamie Lee Curtis just looks like she has a lot of makeup plastered on, and the other guy like a bunch of makeup. She's the only one that looks like very young. Like, so maybe she's the one taking the A and the others are not, and they need all the makeup. I mean, wouldn't you think that some Hollywood stars would say no and they just like to be okay getting old? Or do you think everyone is?
no, they're immortals. They just change through history. You think it's like all different actors through the time, but they just changed. Like the one I did, like on Madonna,
Yeah.
where she was in. I have a picture of her as an Italian guy in the like 1900s, and then she was also Joan Crawford, Madonna. Then she's now that actress with the blonde short hair that was in Ozark. That Madonna, because then she got replaced by another Madonna, which was Lisa Marie. And then now the ugly looking Madonna, that's Lisa Marie's mother that's playing
Okay,
Madonna. So yeah,
so
through the history, yeah, they're
Lisa Marie, the one that was Elvis Presley's wife?
yeah, Elvis Presley's daughter.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, kind of like, playing a word like the king of rock and roll, and then, hanging out with Michael Jackson, the king of pop. So now, Madonna was the queen of pop, so, but yeah, anyone that wants to see on TikTok, Firehorse Klaatu, and then you'd be able to see all everyone's playing all these different characters. Will Smith, I was surprised that he's Muhammad Ali, and then he happens to play Muhammad Ali in the Muhammad Ali movie. But he's also Jesse Jackson,
Yeah.
and Jesse Jackson is also Reggie Jackson. Doesn't everyone have two brothers together? They're saying those two brothers, but it's the same person that Will Smith is playing. Aside from everybody knowing that he plays Tyler Perry, a lot of people already know that. But yeah, and another one is Sam Cooke, and I can see Will Smith as Sam Cooke, so he's another immortal that's been around for a while, and a woman and his two kids, obviously, that were transgendered. Sam Cooke, yeah.
So he plays Sam Cooke. You're saying that
Sam Cooke, yeah. Like he, they fake his death, whatever, and they just come back as other characters.
yeah. Wow, yeah, because I mean they're the masters of plastic surgery.
Yeah, and I don't think he's even. I think they're just shape shifting. Before it was like, okay, Hollywood mask this and that, but then you're going like, but how do they like get so young or this and then since they're falling angels, obviously, then it has to they shape shift, and then in the Bible quote that says, yeah, the cherubim has 4 faces, meaning that they could morph into 4 different types of faces.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll go ahead and put down your links and then we'll see let me know on Messenger when your wife gets back and then we can do a show together because we have done 2 shows together with you and your beautiful wife and we have a bunch, you and I. So let me know and thank you guys for watching Firehorse Klaatu, and I'm Veronica Bartolini and we'll see you next time. Peace. Thank you.
Peace out. Thank you, people.
Hasta luego.